The jungle of Dralkar 4 was loud and dangerous, full of strange sounds and hidden things that could kill in seconds. Jack Harper had crash-landed here after his ship was hit by debris from a destroyed freighter. He was a human engineer, not a soldier, not a fighter, just a man with tools, instincts, and a little bit of luck. Smoke still rose from the broken wing of his ship as he checked his supplies. Oxygen half tank, water almost gone, blaster low power. He needed shelter, food, and a way to signal for rescue as he walked deeper into the forest, cutting through thick vines. He heard a noise, a scream, short and sharp, not human, but not like any animal he had heard either. He moved fast, careful not to make too much sound. Then he saw her. She was pinned beneath a fallen tree trunk, her pale blue skin scratched and her silver hair full of leaves and blood. Two reptilian predators circled her, teeth out, eyes glowing red. She was trying to crawl, but her leg was bent the wrong way. Jack didn't think he just moved. He picked up a sharp metal pipe from the wreckage and threw it hard. Hitting one of the beasts in the side, it turned and snarled at him. But Jack was already running, grabbing a rock and yelling to draw its attention. The fight was messy, fast, and painful. He took scratches, one bite on the arm, but finally scared the creatures off by setting off his emergency flare. Smoke and light filled the area, and the animals ran back into the shadows. He dropped to his knees beside the girl, breathing hard. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes, blinking slowly. "You? Human," she whispered, voice soft and trembling. Jack nodded, not knowing what to say. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, and carefully lifted the heavy tree trunk off her body. She cried out in pain, but didn't stop him, using parts from his survival kit. He made a splint for her leg and wrapped it tightly. The girl winced, but she didn't complain. "Thank you," she said again. "My name, Ilari." Jack smiled weakly. "Nice to meet you, Ilari," he said. "Let's get you out of here." They moved slowly, Jack helping her walk with her arm over his shoulder. He guided her toward a nearby cave he had seen earlier, dark but dry place, hidden from the open forest. Once inside, he set up a small fire and gave her the last of his water. Ilari sat quietly, watching the flames dance. Her eyes didn't blink much, and her breathing was slow, calm, almost royal in a way. "You saved me," she said. "You touched me, bled for me." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, it's kind of what we do, back on Earth," he replied with a chuckle. Ilari didn't laugh, she just looked away, a strange emotion crossing her face. "You don't understand what you've done," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "What do you mean?" he asked, confused, but she didn't answer. She only looked at the fire again, her hands shaking slightly. Jack thought she might be going into shock, so he covered her with a thermal blanket. He sat beside her, staring at the fire, trying to figure out how long until help arrived. He didn't know that far above them, a ship had picked up his emergency beacon. And it wasn't human. By morning, Ilari seemed stronger. Jack helped her outside, into the morning light, and that's when he saw them, figures in shining armor, standing among the trees tall. Blue-skinned, like Ilari, she stood straighter. Lifting her chin, "My people," she said, "they have come." The aliens approached in silence, looking at Jack with unreadable expressions. Then, suddenly, they all knelt, even the ones holding weapons. Jack blinked, shocked. "Okay. What's happening?" he whispered. Ilari stepped forward with a limp, turned to him, and said, "You saved me. You bled for me. You touched me while I was in sacred distress. The law of my people is clear. You must now take my purity." Jack froze, staring at her. "What?" Before he could ask anything else, two alien guards gently took his arms, not to harm him, but to guide him. Ilari looked over her shoulder, her eyes soft, almost sad. "It's not just a tradition," she said. It's survival, and with that, hush. Jack was pulled into a new world, one where he was no longer just a crash survivor, but something much more dangerous and deeply needed. Jack sat in a room carved from crystal walls. The light around him dim and pulsing like a slow heartbeat. He couldn't understand how things had changed so fast. Yesterday, he was alone, fighting to survive on a wild alien world. Now he was surrounded by Illyri's people, treated like some kind of honored figure, no, more than that, like a chosen one. No one was speaking to him in words he understood. They only nodded or bowed. A few offered soft fruits and water that tasted like sweet fog. But no one explained what was going on. The doors opened and Illyri entered. Walking slowly with the help of a curved cane, her wounded leg now wrapped in some kind of glowing bandage. Her eyes met Jack's, calm but unreadable. He stood up immediately, unsure whether to bow or speak, but she raised a hand to stop him. "You saved me," she said gently. "And now?" "Because of that, the law of first touch has been invoked." Jack exhaled sharply. "Yeah, you said something about that before. Purity, binding." It sounded like some ancient custom. Illyri stepped closer, her voice lower now. "It's not just ancient, it's sacred. Our survival as a caste, as a bloodline, depends on it. No male of my kind may touch me once I've been touched during my lust. During what we call sacred distress, you did that and more." Jack's brows furrowed. "So you're saying I accidentally disqualified every male in your tribe?" "You didn't disqualify them," Illyri whispered. "You replaced them." That word hit him like a punch. He wasn't just some accidental hero. He was now expected to fulfill something far more intimate. Jack rubbed the back of his neck, pacing. "Now, okay, but look, I didn't mean to, I was just trying to help, where I come from. Saving someone doesn't mean this." Illyri looked down, her fingers brushing the crystal wall beside her. "I understand, truly I do. But once invoked, the law cannot be undone, even if you walk away. The shame upon my family would be permanent. Our clan would be weakened, others would claim our land, my sisters would be scattered." Silence filled the room, heavy and strange, like the air itself was watching. "You could lie," Jack said quietly. "Tell them I didn't touch you. Say it was someone else." Illyri gave a sad smile. "You don't understand. Your blood is on my skin. Your scent is in the air. Your fight was seen by forest watchers. Even the plants here carry memory. They know you saved me." Jack sat down slowly, his hands trembling just a little. "So what happens now?" Illyri didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the center of the room where a pool of glowing water shimmered. She dipped her hand in it and murmured a few words in her own tongue. A soft light pulsed beneath the surface. She turned back. "To him, tonight, you will be brought to the Chamber of Firelight. Where the ceremony begins, I will wait for you there. But listen, Jack, you don't have to touch me unless your heart agrees. No law forces what is unwilling. But if you refuse, they will remove you from this world." Quietly, Jack looked up, his eyes locking with hers. "Remove me? They will not kill you, not directly," Illyri said gently, "but they will abandon you. Leave you to the wilds again, and Drelkar 4 does not forgive a second time." For a long time, neither of them said a word. Jack stared at the walls, the strange lights, the memory of the jungle still burning behind his eyes. He thought of Earth, of being just a repair tech. Unnoticed, unimportant. Now he was at the center of a life he never wanted, with a woman who seemed Kamba-haunted. He finally asked, "And what about you, Illyri? What do you want?" She looked at him, long and steady. "I want to live. I want my sisters to live free. I want to not be shamed by things beyond my control, and—" She hesitated, stepping a little closer, I want to choose who takes my purity. Even if the law says it must be you, I still want it to be my choice." Jack's chest tightened. It wasn't just pressure anymore. There was something real in her eyes, something that stirred his instincts beyond duty or tradition. As the door opened again and soft music echoed from down the glowing corridor, Jack knew the choice he made tonight would change both their lives forever. He just didn't know what kind of fire he was stepping into, or what truth waited behind the ritual veil. The sun on Drelkar 4 had set, but the sky didn't go dark. Instead, glowing vines lit up across the cliffs like rivers of light. The air smelled of spices Jack couldn't name, and soft drumbeats echoed through the mountain cave halls. Jack stood shirtless now, dressed in alien ceremonial cloth tied across his chest and waist. It felt too thin, too strange, and too revealing, but the guards had insisted they didn't speak, only guided him with firm hands through long tunnels filled with whispering winds as they moved. Every guard lowered their head when he passed. Some even touched their foreheads in salute. He didn't feel like a hero. His stomach twisted, not from fear of danger, but from not knowing what this night truly meant. Everything felt like a dream, just one breath from turning into a nightmare. Finally, the guard stopped. A large door stood before him, made of white bone, carved with patterns of stars and eyes, and something that looked like fire reaching upward. One guard looked at Jack, and in slow, clear words said, "She waits." Then the door opened. The chamber inside was warm, lit by flickering firestones embedded in the floor. The air smelled of smoke, fruit, and something sweet but heavy, like melted honey. Ilari was sitting at the center of the room on a raised platform made of smooth black stone. Her skin shimmered like starlight under the glow, and her silver hair was braided with red threads. She looked like a goddess, like someone not meant to be touched. Yet Jack had already touched her when she was bleeding, helpless, dying. Now she looked at him with calm, steady eyes, but there was a storm behind them, something silent but intense. He stepped forward, his bare feet warm against the firelit floor. "I don't understand any of this," Jack said softly. "But I came." Ilari gave the smallest nod. "That matters," she whispered. "Sit with me." He did, folding his legs beside her. Silence growing between them like a third presence in the room. She leaned in close and placed something cold into his hand, a crystal coin glowing softly. "If you leave now," she said, "drop this coin into the flame near the door. They will guide you away. Say nothing, ask nothing. You'll be flown off-world by morning." Jack stared at the coin, then at her. "And if I stay?" "Then you take the path," she said, voice like wind through glass. "You accept my hand, my past, and my body, and you become part of something you can never leave." Jack looked at the coin again, the glow from it flickering across his fingers like trapped moonlight outside the chamber. The drums grew louder, echoing through the floor like a second heartbeat. He didn't move, not yet. Ilari slowly took his other hand, guiding it to her chest, to a mark that pulsed softly beneath her skin, some kind of glowing tattoo shaped like a broken star. "It will only shine once," she said. "If you walk away, it will fade forever, and so will I." Jack's throat felt dry. He could feel the heat of her breath, the rhythm of her heart, and the weight of his choice. But before he could speak, a voice roared from the doorway, deep, cold, and angry. "This ritual is not complete," it said. Jack turned sharply, eyes widening. A tall alien male stepped into the firelight, his armor decorated with gold chains and bone, eyes glowing with fury. "You are not of our blood," the male said, stepping forward. "You cannot bind with her, not when a true son stands ready." Ilari stood up quickly. "No, Varek, it is done. He saved me. The law is clear." But Varek only sneered. "Then I challenge him." The room went dead silent. Even the fire seemed to pause. What does that mean? Jack asked, standing now, heart pounding. If you win, Ilari said with a shaky voice, I remain yours, body and name. And if I lose? Jack asked, already knowing the answer. Varric drew a ceremonial blade from his waist. Its edge glowing blue with heat. You won't walk away, he said coldly. Not after tonight. Jack looked at Ilari, saw the fear in her face, and knew. There was no more time to think. The ritual had turned into something else now, not just about a bond. Not about tradition. It had become a battle for her future. And maybe for his own, and the firelight would burn until one of them fell. The room was silent, but the air burned with tension. Even the walls, alive with glowing crystals, seemed to dim in fear. Jack stood face to face with Varric, a warrior of Ilari's people. Twice his size and full of rage, Ilari stepped back, her eyes locked on Jack, not begging, not pleading, just waiting, trusting Jack had never been in a duel before, not like this, not with ancient rules, glowing weapons, and the pressure of an entire alien culture watching from the shadows. Varric pointed the blade at him, its edge humming. You are no warrior, he growled. You are a trespasser in sacred fire. Jack didn't argue. What could he say? He wasn't trained for this. He had no armor, no weapons of his own. Just instincts, adrenaline, and something he didn't expect Ilari's silent belief in him. A circle of fire ignited around them, marking the boundary of the duel. The flames pulsed in time with the beating drums outside. Louder now, faster. A ceremonial voice rang out from above. Maybe from a speaker or a hidden elder. Fight until the circle breaks, until one bleeds. Or until the fire chooses. Jack raised his fists, unsure if it even mattered. But he refused to look weak. He had come this far. He wouldn't step back now. Varric lunged, fast like lightning, his blade slicing through the air toward Jack's shoulder. Jack ducked just in time, the heat from the weapon burning his skin. Even without contact, he rolled sideways and grabbed a heavy iron torch from the wall. Not sharp but solid, Varric turned again, swinging wide. Jack blocked the hit with the torch. Sparks flew, but the blade didn't break it. Jack pushed forward and swung the torch hard into Varric's ribs. The alien grunted, but didn't fall. Instead, he growled louder. Backing Jack toward the edge of the fire circle, "You are nothing but lucky bones," Varric hissed. "Luck cannot save you from tradition." Jack wiped sweat from his eyes. Breathing hard, maybe not, but I've never followed your rules anyway. He waited for the next swing, then dodged low, sliding between Varric's legs and striking the back of his knee with the torch. Varric stumbled, roaring. Jack didn't stop. He climbed to his feet and struck again. This time to the side of the head. Varric dropped to one knee. Ilari stepped forward slightly, whispering something Jack couldn't hear, but he felt it like a thread of strength pulling him upward. Varric turned with rage, swinging blindly. Catching Jack in the ribs, the blade barely missed cutting deep, but the heat still seared his skin. Jack gasped, pain shooting through his side. But he didn't fall. He grabbed Varric's arm, twisted it with all his strength, and shoved the torch hard into his chest, just enough to knock the wind out of him. Varric collapsed with a loud thud, his blade skidding across the floor. The flames around them flared high, then dropped to a soft glow. The voice returned, slow and final. "The fire has chosen." Jack fell to one knee, breathing like a storm, sweat soaking his face and chest. The torch rolled from his hand. Varric groaned, still alive but beaten. Ilari stepped into the circle, everyone else still watching from the shadows. She knelt beside Jack, touched his bruised face, and said in a quiet voice only he could hear, "You didn't just win. You proved them all wrong." He looked at her, barely able to smile. "I hate fighting," he muttered. She smiled too. Then maybe that's why you deserve to win. Guards entered the chamber, but this time they didn't touch him. They simply bowed. One of them held out a silk cloth soaked in cool mist. Handing it to Alari, she helped clean Jack's wounds. Gently, with hands that no longer shook. Outside, the drum stopped. The tribe had accepted the result. The challenge was over, but Jack's heart still raced. Not from the duel, but from what came next. He had passed the trial, but the ritual had not ended. The true moment of binding was still to come, and now it would be by choice, not tradition. Alari stood, then offered him her hand. "Come," she said softly. "You've earned the fire, but you still haven't touched the stars." He took her hand, slowly, and stood, and together they stepped deeper into the glowing corridor, toward whatever waited beyond fire, blood, and fate. The air was different now. No more drums, no more fire circle, no more shouting, just silence. Warm and slow. Lead Jack down a hallway filled with glowing symbols on the walls. Each one shimmered with soft gold light as if watching them. Past Jack's side still hurt from the duel. Every step reminded him he was only human, but something inside him had changed. He had fought a warrior from another world and survived. Not with power, but with grit, timing, and the will to protect Alari. Didn't speak as they walked. She only held his hand, gently, like she was afraid to break something delicate between them. They entered a round chamber made of black stone. The ceiling was open to the stars above, and a soft breeze touched Jack's face like a whisper. In the center of the room was a shallow pool, glowing pale blue, surrounded by smooth, shining stones. "This is the place of truth," Alari said quietly, her voice no longer guarded. "Our people come here only once in their life, when they choose someone." Jack looked around slowly, unsure. "Choose? For what exactly?" "He asked for the bond," she said, walking to the edge of the pool. "Not just physical. Not just bilateral bond. Body, thought, and soul." Jack's breath caught. The word bond sounded heavier here, more serious than marriage, more final than any human ceremony he knew. "I thought this was all about tradition," he said, sitting beside the pool, wincing from his bruises. "You said if I won, I'd have the right." "Yes," she replied, kneeling across from him. "You earned the right, but now comes the choice." Jack leaned back on his hands, looking up at the alien stars. "And what if I say no now?" he asked softly. Alari didn't flinch. She reached out, took a small crystal pendant from her neck, and held it in her palm. "Then I'll walk alone," she said. "But no shame will follow, because I would have chosen to offer, and you would have chosen not to take." He stared at her for a long moment. "No one's forcing me now," he whispered. "Not the tribe, not the law, not even you." She nodded. "No," she said. "Only the stars can witness the truth now." For a few seconds, Jack said nothing. Just listen to the wind. Watch the way the water glowed softly under the sky. "You said something before," Jack said slowly, "that you let me win the duel." Alari gave a quiet smile. "I did," she admitted, "but I didn't let you survive. That was all you." Jack chuckled, even though his ribs hurt. "Why would you do that?" he asked. "Because I needed to see what kind of man you were," she said. "One who fights for pride, or one who fights for someone else." She reached forward then, not to touch him, but to place her pendant into the pool. It sank slowly, and the water changed color. Pale blue turned to deep violet, and a soft hum filled the air. Jack looked at her face again, really looked, and saw past the alien markings and silver hair, saw the weight she carried, the loneliness, the quiet strength. "I've never done this before," Jack said, his voice unsure. "I don't even know what this means for your people," Alari tilted her head slightly. "Neither do I," she whispered. "This has never happened before. No human has ever been chosen, but the stars are watching, and maybe Maybe they want something new. The water in the pool shimmered higher, casting soft light across their skin. Jack reached forward, placing his hand into the pool beside her pendant. The glow pulsed, warm and alive. Ilari gasped softly, her hand moving beside his, not touching, just close. "Your heartbeat," she whispered. "It's matching mine." Jack didn't move away. "I think it means I'm ready," he said quietly. She leaned in, her forehead gently pressing against his, and for the first time, there was no ceremony. Number law, no threat, just them. Two people from different worlds, bound by a choice neither of them had planned, and above them, the stars began to blink brighter, as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. The stars faded as dawn crept over the cliffs of Drelkar, for the first light touched the sacred chamber's black walls, making them shimmer like morning frost. Jack stood at the edge of the platform, silent, watching as golden fog rolled across the ground. Ilari sat behind him, her long silver hair loose now, falling softly down her back, her eyes calm, not sleepy. They hadn't rested, they had only listened. They had not spoken much after the moment in the pool. Words had felt too heavy, too slow. What passed between them had been something else: quiet glances, soft touches, fingers brushing across ancient markings. And now, something was different. Elri finally stood, her bare feet touching the stone without sound. She walked beside him and whispered, "The bond is complete." Jack turned to her, unsure if he was supposed to feel something bigger, louder, but what he felt instead was peace. Like all the noise in his head had faded. Ilari reached out and placed her palm on his chest, right over his heart. "I can feel your thoughts," she said softly. "Not your words, just your feelings, like ripples." Jack looked at her, eyes wide. "You're serious?" That's part of the ritual." She nodded slowly. "It's rare, even among my kind, but because you're human." Something in the ritual changed. Jack took a step back, not in fear, but in shock. "You mean I'm bonded to you in more than just name? Like, you can actually feel me?" She tilted her head. "Not control," she said, "not reading your mind. Only sensing what echoes inside you." Jack rubbed his hands over his face, trying to process it all. "So what do I feel like right now?" he asked quietly. Ilari smiled. "Like someone standing on the edge of something beautiful, but afraid to fall." He couldn't help but smile too. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Before either of them could say more, a low hum echoed through the floor. Ilari turned quickly, her smile fading. "They're calling us," she said. The elders. Jack followed her through the wide corridor again, this time without guards, without weapons, just the two of them. As they entered the grand hall, he saw rows of Ilari's people standing in silence, armor gleaming, heads bowed, and in the center, a circular platform surrounded by spiraling crystal towers. The elders stood there, three of them, tall and aged, their robes lined with glowing threads. One of them raised his hand. "Human." The voice was deep and slow. "You have fulfilled the rite of fire and the bond of stars." Jack glanced at Ilari, then back to the elders. "I didn't do it for power," he said. "I just did what I thought was right." One elder stepped closer, placing a strange metallic collar in his hands. "This is a symbol of trust," the elder said. "You wear it not as a slave or servant, but as one who is now part of our bloodline. Our stories, our memory." Jack held it in both hands, unsure what to say, until Ilari stepped forward and placed it gently around his neck. Then she whispered, "Now they know you're not just a visitor." Jack looked around the hall, hundreds of alien eyes staring at him, not with suspicion now, but with quiet respect. But just as he began to feel the weight of it settle, a sudden, sharp sound echoed from above. Boom! The lights flickered. Shadow passed across the dome ceiling. Then the sound again louder this time. Kiri's face changed instantly, from peace to alert fear. "No," she whispered, "they've come early." Jack grabbed her hand. "Who?" "The outer clans," she said quickly. "The ones who want to destroy our way of life. They heard I bonded with an outsider. They won't accept it." Panic spread. Through the hall, warriors moved, guards shouted, elders turned to retreat into the crystal paths. Jack stood still, the collar still warm around his neck. "They're coming for me," he said. Elari gripped his arm tightly. "No, they're coming for us." And somewhere above the clouds, ships descended toward the mountain temple, carrying fire, hatred, and a challenge Jack couldn't run from not anymore. The sky cracked open with the sound of thunder that wasn't made by weather. Silver ships tore through the clouds like blades, their engines screaming across the peaks of Drelkar 4. The outer clans had arrived faster and louder than anyone expected. Jack stood at the edge of the grand hall, his hand still in Elari's, while warriors rushed past him. Preparing for war, he should have felt fear, but something inside him had settled. Something strong and calm. Elari's people were divided. Some still unsure if a human deserved the bond of their bloodline. Others stood ready to defend him without question, not because of law, but because of what he had proven. Elari turned to him, her voice low. "They'll try to take me, to shame the bond. Maybe even erase it completely." Jack looked her in the eyes. "Then they'll have to go through me." She stared at him for a moment, then gave a short, sharp nod, her eyes shining with something stronger than fear-faith. A signal flared from the highest tower, fire erupting into the sky, and Jack knew that was the final warning. The outer clans weren't coming to talk, they were coming to destroy. He followed Elari through winding crystal halls until they reached the outer platform. From there, they could see the first enemy ship landing in the valley below. Tall warriors poured out, covered in dark armor and red paint, carrying shock spears and chain blades. Elari handed Jack a small device, looked like a bracelet, but hummed with hidden power. "This will protect you from one strike," she said. "Just one. Use it wisely." Jack put it on, the metal snapping gently around his wrist. "I'm not running," he said. "I've run enough in my life." She smiled faintly. "You're not meant to run. You're meant to stand." Suddenly, explosions shook the mountainside. Dust rained from above, and alarms echoed across the temple. Walls, warriors from Elari's clan clashed with the invaders near the outer gate. Metal screamed against metal. Energy bolts lit up the sky. Jack saw a group of outer clan soldiers break through the gate, heading straight for the ceremonial path. "They're coming for you," Elari warned. Jack picked up a fallen weapon, something like a polearm with plasma edges, heavy but familiar. "They want to erase your choice," he said. "Then we'll show them how strong that choice is." He stepped in front of her, and when the first enemy lunged forward, Jack met him head-on. The fight wasn't clean or elegant. Jack didn't have training, but he had will. Every move he made was fueled by something more than instinct, more than survival. It was for her, for the bond, for the right to choose his own place in this strange new world. The bracelet flared, once saving him from a blade that would have ended him. After that, he moved faster, striking hard, forcing the attackers back. Behind him, Elar lifted her hands. Ancient symbols glowing on her palms, she summoned something older than weapons. The power of her bloodline, a wave of energy that knocked down 3 invaders at once. Together, they held the path, not as warrior and princess, but as one more. Ships appeared in the sky, but then another ship broke through the clouds. Smaller, silver, human-made. Jack's eyes widened. "That's Earth Tech," a voice crackled through a comlink in his collar. "Harper, this is Commander Reyes. We picked up your signal, standing by for evac or assistance." Jack smiled, bruised and bleeding, but still standing, not evac, Commander. He said, "We're defending something worth staying for." The human ship moved in, blasting the outer clans with precision strikes, forcing them to retreat. The temple walls shook but didn't fall. Minutes later, silence returned. Smoke drifted through the air, and the last invader was gone. Jack stood among the broken stones, breathing hard as Alari approached him slowly. "You could have left," she said, voice soft again even after the bond. "You had a way out." He looked at her and shook his head. "No, I had a way home." He replied, "But you became that." She reached for his hand. "Then stay," she whispered. "I already have," he said, pulling her close, above them. The stars began to return, one by one, as if blessing the world they'd protected together, and somewhere deep in the mountain, the fire circle flickered to life again, waiting quietly for a new legend to begin, the end.